it makes sense at midlife we question a lot of things.
Yeah.
But I think it's also a good time to reflect and realize what we haven't dealt with. And that was something I had to come to terms with. But, we grieve in a lot of different ways. We grieve the loss of relationships, of people passing away, of our pets passing. We grieve the loss of marriages and homes and jobs and careers. And what I have learned is you cannot compare grief. Because we do that so much in our society. Compare despair, compare they have it worse. Oh, I have it worse. No. We all are dealing with something. We can't compare. We have to deal with ours and support others to deal with theirs. But I see that so much that it's something I've become more aware of. And I've always been an empath. I've always kind of taken on other people's emotions. And I've had to learn to kind of push back. Like, I can support you without taking on everything of what you're dealing with. And I think that is also hard as women, especially when it's our families, our parents, our kids, our friends. We want to do so much, but we can only do so much for other people.
Hello and welcome to the F.E.E.L Podcast this week. Our guest, she is a podcaster's podcaster, especially in the world of women's podcasting. And this will make more sense as we go through the conversation. But I have Julie Marty-Pearson here with me today. We were connected via our good friends at Podmatch. Always so thankful for them and all of the amazing women that they bring into my life. And Julie is another one of those stories. So you're going to get to know her today as we walk through our talking points. She describes herself as empathetic, authentic, and empowering. Julie, welcome to the F.E.E.L Podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Melissa. I'm excited for our conversation today.
I am too. All right, we're going to start right off with it because we know this is an area that women really struggle with. But talk to me about prioritizing self-care in your life.
So it's funny, I was on another podcast recently that was talking about my 40s and what made me pivot and all these things. And it kind of goes to self-care. 2 weeks after I turned 40, I was diagnosed with chronic kidney disease. And that was my body telling me something needed to change in the way I was working and living and taking care of myself. And I've had health issues most of my life, so I have to listen to my body. But that was something that happened that was a wake-up call for me.
Sure.
And so for me, self-care means a lot of things. But it definitely means listening when your intuition is trying to tell you something. Listen when your body is saying, maybe we need a break. One thing I read yesterday in my astrology said that when I get moody, it means I need a nap, or a snack, or a break.
Nap, snack, break. There we go. Or maybe all three.
Right. So for me, self-care can simply be me shutting my laptop and sitting on my bed for 30 minutes and watching a show while I eat lunch. Or it's, taking a break when I have a space in my day. Or like I did on Monday, I didn't have any meetings scheduled for once on a Monday. I let myself sleep until 9 and it was great.
Yeah. And those things feel like a treat.
Yep. Yeah. It shouldn't be a treat, but
exactly.
It also sometimes when I get to do it, it reminds me why I have my own business and work from home, because my old life, I didn't. I actually commuted to work. Several of my jobs, I actually lived where I was during the week and came home on the weekends.
Oh, wow.
So I was literally living out of a suitcase. And so my home and my private and my quiet is very important. And so boundaries between working from home and being at home is hard. But I've learned little things to do, like just shutting the door of my office when I'm done for the day. So I don't even look at my desk or my computer. And that's a little self-care too.
Absolutely. Which that goes nicely into confidently setting boundaries. I love that close your door thing. I had to learn to, when I first started working from home, and it was by accident, the first time, well, not accident, it was COVID, but I had to go into my garage and drive my car around the block and come back in my garage and walk back into my house. It's like, okay, now you're home and it's no longer your office, because we were spread out all over the house. There wasn't one room, because there was 4 of us at home and 3 of the 4 of us were working from home. And so it was and it wasn't that wasn't the original plan. So I love that you've got that, close the door, office hours are over. Now I'm home. I think that's so smart. But also talked about the health part and listening to your body. We tend to just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And our body is screaming at us the whole time that it's overtapped. And we keep pushing. And then we're like, oh, my body's failing me. And like, she's been screaming at us for however many hours, days, months, sometimes years, to pay attention that she was needing some some healing, some refilling, some time off, all those things. But we wait till we get to that breaking point. And you and I are both in this business now of highlighting women's voices and conversations so that we don't do that. It's like, ladies, we can do better for ourselves. We deserve to do better for ourselves. So I think also too, you creating that boundaries around that.
Right. And I think women are really good at worrying about and taking care of other people. And we often are not taking care of ourselves at the same time. Or we're like, well, I just have to focus on this now and then tomorrow or next week or whatever. And sometimes our bodies can't wait. And, I've had to say no to things in my life that I wish I could have done, looking back. But I knew at the time that I couldn't either mentally or physically handle it on top of everything else. And it's hard. Boundaries in all senses of the word are difficult. But it is really difficult to be able to say to someone, you know what, I can't because I need rest or whatever it is. That sounds silly maybe, but we have to stick up for ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. We know our bodies better than anybody else. And if we keep saying yes, people aren't going to be like, oh, are you sure? I mean, you've been really busy lately. I'm like, maybe they will every once in a while, but most of the time they're just like, oh, well, she said yes, she must be okay. So it is upon us to advocate for ourselves and speak for ourselves. I love that so much. And with those, being mindful of your body, mindful of the fact that there's been different health challenges throughout your life. Talk to me about the impact of emotional health, physical health, mental health on your journey.
Oh my gosh, so much so. It started for me as a kid. I didn't know it obviously as a child, but when I was 11 or 12, I got really sick. It took 6 months for them to figure out what it was.
Oh wow!
It was Epstein-Barr, and along the way, doctors actually said to my parents, there's nothing wrong with her. She's just doing this for attention. And my mom would say, I know my daughter, and she never asked for attention. So that is not what's happening. And then I missed almost all of my 7th grade year. And so that's a pretty pivotal point in our lives as people, as becoming preteen. And so the couple years after that were really difficult for my mental health. I didn't know it at the time, but now I know I was dealing with depression and anxiety. And I will say one thing that helped me a lot was my pets, my dog Champ. I got to get him as a puppy during that time when I was home from school, and he became my best friend. So for me, pets and having a caring person or animal around has really become important for me with my mental health. Because even if it's a pet who can't say something to you, it's just the being of someone there with you. And my dog Champ was really great at that. Like, he would sit by the bed when he knew I wasn't feeling well, or pets have an intuition with that. And so as I've gotten older, I think that I've had to balance my physical and mental. And sometimes I'm more worried about the physical of what's changing or has to be changed. And I'm not preparing myself for the mental. And I definitely had that a lot when I had a hysterectomy. I was not really prepared for the mental process.
Yeah, because that's the thing. I mean, it's one thing to physically have a hysterectomy and all that does to you, but then, you're going into early menopause, and with early menopause comes all of the emotions and hormonal shifts that come with that have an impact on your emotional, mental, physical health. So it's really a loaded procedure. And I don't think in Western medicine, it's always addressed all that's coming your way. And so you are left after the fact to deal with the fallout of that and to figure out, this is all part of this whole process and decision I made. And I'm going to need more resources than not driving for 6 weeks or staying home for some time or not lifting some boxes. I mean, there's some more to this than that.
Yeah. Right. I remember there was something I said to a friend, like, oh, well, aren't you fine now? I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, and, for me, because I have other health concerns, I actually had to stay overnight so that they could run labs the next day. Yeah. But I have had some anger towards my doctor. She's a female. Mm-hmm. And she did not prepare me not only for physical changes that happened to my body, but also the mental. Yeah. And, my belly shifted. I never had kids, so nothing had ever changed. And then you take a piece out and that's what's keeping other things in place. And I'm like, what's happening to me? And, because I had to stay overnight, I knew that ahead of time, but I didn't really think about where I was going to be staying. So, I'm in my room and it's, at that night, my husband had gone home and my mom had gone home and I was there alone. And then I hear a noise. And I'm like, oh, that's a baby crying. Oh, I'm on the ward where all of the women and the babies go after they've given birth. So I was on the post-labor unit and I'd never had a child. So I've never gone through that. But then I'm here and my uterus has just been taken out and I hear babies crying and families coming to meet new babies. And so there were things like that was kind of like this, oh, this is weird. Like, I've never experienced this, but I am, but it's for a different reason. And no matter what we say to ourselves and other people, our reproductive parts of us are a big part of us as a women. It's like who we are, it's how we work. And no matter why you're having to have something altered or taken out, I wasn't prepared for that. Like, oh, this is really me letting go of this part of me.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that and your vulnerability in that. And I think it's such an interesting conversation. I have my own frustrations with Western medicine, and I've always been pretty mindful of having women doctors throughout. But I've had to remember that just because they're women doctors doesn't mean they were taught differently in medical school. So medically, what I would love to see more of is the ability to also think of their own experiences and tapping into those as they talk to you about the possibilities. But but that's a tricky thing because where's the line from professional to personal cross? For me, that was part of what drove me to go to more of a holistic medical approach, because I wanted to have that balance of the why behind things, but also bringing all those things together. So instead of, and so I got all the information about the impacts. But yeah, that is such an interesting thing. And that's such a big, for me, that's a big miss to not tell someone they're going to be in, basically a post-birth maternal.
A maternity ward, basically.
Ward, yeah. I mean, it's like,
But then, I also realized that she didn't really prepare me for the physical changes. Like, I remember I was on the gurney. They were getting ready to take me in to put me under. And, they have to go over things with you. Now, at her office, I had to sign something that was like my awareness that I am being sterilized. Like, that's what this procedure is. And I have to sign it. Yeah. But then in the gurney, getting ready to go in, they're like, now, we're going to put the net in and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I'm sorry, the what now? Well, when they remove your uterus, they put like a netting in because your uterus actually kind of holds your bladder in place. I did not know that.
Oh, wow.
And literally seconds before going in for the procedure, someone said this, and she had never said anything to me about this. Wow. So there were little things along the way that I'm like, I realize for you as an OBGYN, you do this every day, but I've never done it. So maybe you should tell us.
Yeah.
And I think that's where women sharing our stories is what we have to do, because if someone else had shared this story with me, I would have been like, okay, I know what's happening. I know what's coming, right?
Yeah.
So some of it is just us doing it for each other because we cannot rely on Western medicine to do it for us.
Well, yeah. And it goes back to that advocacy piece. Go in prepared with a list of questions. It is a medical practice. And yes, they are professionals and trained, but practice means it's ongoing and changing. And they may not know everything or realize upfront because it's so, like you said, they're so accustomed to it. They may not think of, oh gosh, She probably doesn't know that because
Right.
of the amount of times that they've gone through this or patients that they see. So go in very prepared and never, ever let yourself, even if you get gaslit, because women in medicine, we get gaslit all the time about how we're feeling. You had it when you were a little girl. I mean, it's no wonder we don't trust our bodies when we're hearing these things as little kids. Oh, she must be making it up or trying to get attention. Really? That's the best you got? And even if we're that,
Right.
even if that were true, okay, so what's going on to create this situation? Why does she feel like she has to do
Right, because if that were true, something was happening within me to make me do that. If that's what, right? So
yeah,
but yeah,
yeah, keep asking questions, keep advocating. Don't believe there's never a wrong question or a stupid question, and so that you've got the best information to make a decision with, because it probably, given your situation, may not have changed your mind on looking into other things, but maybe it would have. And isn't it important to have all the information so you can make the most informed decision with all the information? So just another reminder, ladies, ask the questions. Nothing is too much. Advocate for yourself. Don't assume just because they're the professional that they know everything. And if they make you feel stupid or gaslight you, that might be a clue that there might be somebody better for you out there that's going to address you and receive your questions with respect and honor.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Advocate is the big one. It's hard for us sometimes to speak up for ourselves, but there are cases like this that I really wish I had. And so that's what I tell others. If they say something about they're going to go through it, I'm like, ask all your questions. Make sure you get all the answers you need beforehand.
Yeah. And talk to other people who have gone through it, because sometimes you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
It may not occur to you like, oh, this is going to displace some other things that's holding together. So I need to ask that question. So talk, if you know people that have had similar procedures, whether it's this or something else, talk to them and find out what it is you don't know that you don't know. So you can be prepared that way too. And that's another way that we support each other by having these conversations. Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Oh, thank you so much for that. All right. And this is what you do in the world. So this is what you live out. How we can support ourselves and other women in living unapologetically. This is really one of your main roles in life now. And I would have to think a value of yours to inspire you to go down this road. So you certainly got, a wake up call with the kidney disease at age 40. But talk to me about that. Like, not only is this a shift for me, this is also an opportunity I can take to elevate and celebrate and get out to the world other women's voices as well. When did that kind of transition into that part of your work?
So when I started in podcasting, I kind of started for fun to see if I liked it. I could never get off the ground I was doing career coaching at the time, and it just didn't excite me to talk about.
Yeah.
So I started it about pets, which I can talk about pets any day of the week with no preparation. I've always been an animal lover. Like I mentioned, my pets are very important to me.
Yeah.
And so as I started that podcast and it started to grow and I was talking to more people, one of the things that allowed me to do is to connect with other women like me who don't have human kids for one reason or another, have pets and are very dedicated and want to help more animals. Yeah. And that was kind of opening this whole world to me that I didn't know a lot of other women like myself at that point. And so as the podcast kind of went on, I was just seeing more and more of these incredible women starting nonprofits, volunteering their time, rescuing. And I'm like, God, we need more of these voices in general, but in podcasting, because podcasting has always been very male dominated.
Yeah.
So that is really kind of the process that made me shift away from career coaching and go all in on podcasting so that I can help more women do what I'm doing, because it was a process. It took time for me to feel right to do it. I never thought I'd have a podcast. That's not really something I thought I would do, but I used to be a teacher. I used to speak in my old career. So it's the same skills. It's just for different reasons and in a different way. So I really do see my business as helping as many women get into podcasting to share their story, whether that be as guests or hosts or both. But we need more women's voices now more than ever in our world. And podcasting is the fastest way to get your voice out and be heard. So that really has become the foundation of my business.
I love that so much because exactly that. I mean, you and I talked about this when we met the first time a few months ago, but it's that importance of lifting up and getting out and magnifying all of our voices, because people are going to connect with different ones of us in different ways. So there's no scarcity mindset here. We need all of us as part of the conversation to make the shifts for women that we want to see, like what we were talking about earlier, advocating for ourselves when it comes to medical procedures, but advocating for ourselves, period, sharing our stories, learning from each other. When we show up and support each other unapologetically, we are one step closer to shifting the world to being the place that's safe for us, where we can thrive and be authentically who we are. And it's by sharing and listening to these stories so that we know how to show up for all the different women we come across, that we're able to do that. And you magnifying that and helping women do that. Because I hear you, like, if you would have told me 10 years ago I was going to have a podcast, I'd be like, what's a podcast? I mean, I'm 55 years old, you know, I didn't even start listening to podcasts until COVID. And because and so I had the time, and then all of a sudden some people that I really liked and admired were putting these podcasts out there. And it was through that, and then my own health journey, and like, wait a minute, I could do that. I like to talk to people. I know lots of women. You know, we got to start having these conversations and taking the stigmas and you know, connotations and old tired narratives off around these things. But we got to open the door to safe places so women aren't feeling isolated and they realize they're not alone in it. And so I feel, and so you not only do that, but you also help get more voices out there to do that, which is even more powerful. I love that so much. All right. And that goes nicely into your why and your values. Talk to me about the role that has played in your life in making these decisions for yourself.
Yeah, you know, one of the reasons I'm still here is because of the community I found in podcasting. I have some bigger communities like Podfest that I love, but I also found a smaller community that was very, you know, there were probably at different points 20 or 30 of us, but it was a membership. So I paid to be in it, but it was that place where it felt safe and you could ask all the questions that maybe you didn't want to ask in front of the bigger groups. And, you know, but I also got to hear what other people were asking and what they were struggling with, which would help me too. And because of that community, although it doesn't exist now because the people who ran it have moved on, they're actually building a podcast studio now. I've taken that with me, and I still have those friends I made. And I realized that maybe that's what I need to do. And so that's what I started creating for other women, was a place where they would feel safe to come and ask the questions they're afraid to ask in a bigger group, to know that they're not going to be judged. You know, I always say women podcast about different things, and we podcast about things differently than men do. And so when we're talking, like, I wouldn't necessarily bring up my hysterectomy story in a big group of men and women, right?
Yeah, exactly.
In a group of women, I don't think I can say it. And there's no like, oh God, why is she talking about that, right?
Yeah.
So that is really where my why came from, is creating a space for women like me. What I needed, I know other people need. And so that's really pushed me forward with all of that.
I love that so much. Thank you so much for sharing that. Living out of your own expectations versus others' expectations. Talk to me about your journey with that. And I think this is an interesting one because you started with those health struggles early on. And so the whole expectations thing can get really muddy, especially at the age you came into it. I want to go back to touch on the value of pets in our health. And you talked about that earlier, but when we were talking about that mental, emotional, physical health thing, there's such an important component of that companionship and unconditional love. And the fact that they can sense so much about what's going on with us. We've had pets that have totally like laid under the bed or right by the couch by us when we've been sick. I mean, they just know. And it can be such a source of comfort. So I wanted to bring that back into as well. But you talked to me about your expectations. I mean, you've got this time, you're not feeling well. You've got you and your dog, thank goodness, which probably saved you in many ways. But it also kind of like the expectations piece and narratives that we get as little girls and how that plays into the decisions we make throughout our life, that can be really challenging.
Yeah, and it was, because that's a really pivotal time for women and girls, 12, 13, our bodies are changing. And for me, so I'm 5'11". I've been 5'11" since I was 12.
Oh, wow. So you were taller than everybody.
A head taller.
Yeah.
Yep, everybody.
Yeah.
And of course, all the short boys love to make fun of me about it, but I'm like, sorry, I'm already taller than you'll ever be.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a you issue.
Right. Yeah. And I didn't know that at the time, but I know that now.
Yeah.
There are a lot of ways that I think expectations, like I didn't always fit the mold.
Yeah.
But it was really hard going back to school, 8th grade, freshman year. It was tough. I didn't feel like I fit anywhere. Mm-hmm. People looked at me like I was weird because I didn't understand certain things, because I was kind of out of it. Yeah. And so ultimately I found my people, I found my place, and I found several groups of friends. And, the rest of my high school I loved and I really excelled, but it's because I found the right people. And I also had parents who advocated for me. So not only did they advocate for me when we were trying to figure out what was going on with my health, but my freshman year, because of missing so much school, I was kind of behind in some areas.
Sure.
So I was put in general, college prep classes. Well, I was bored out of my mind. But I had missed so much of junior high that I couldn't even take like the GATE test, let alone pass it.
Sure.
So after a quarter or so, my mom just went right into the principal's office and was like, you need to help my daughter. She's bored. She's sad. She's, all the things we need. And through that and getting help, I finally got into GATE classes where all my friends were, but it made me feel like, yes, this is where I'm supposed to be. I was challenged. I was more active. Like I wasn't just sitting in a room waiting for the clock to move to the next class. So there were things like that I am very lucky to have great parents who always supported me and advocated for me. And yes, they had their own expectations. Like I was going to be the one that went to college. Yes, I did that. And I was the first doctor in the family, and my dad was very proud of that. But my dad was someone who always said, don't listen to other people's expectations of you. I remember when I graduated with my bachelor's and all of my friends were getting married. And, I was like, well, I'm going to go to a master's, and then I want to go to, to a doctorate program. My dad would be the one to say, you don't have to get married because everyone else is. You want that, you're going to get it. And that's what I did. Now, was it the path I thought? No. I went to one program and left it and went back, all the things. But I got there, I found the right place, and I finished. And for me, that was kind of like, I even put myself under expectations I shouldn't have. Like, I have to do it like everybody else is. But then I realized, no, I don't have to. I can try something, and if it's not right, I can let it go and move to the next.
Yeah.
That's not easy, but I think sometimes expectations are unsaid, and we're assuming what people think we should be doing when we're not actually asking or saying. And so that's something I've had to learn. And it definitely came into play when I left my old career and went into business because I'd worked my whole life for that. Yeah. But now I'm just going to let it go. So sometimes it's also our own expectations of, it's okay. Yeah, I put 20 years in. I did great things and I enjoyed it, but I'm ready for something else.
Yeah. Thank you for speaking to that. I think it's so important. One, the importance of having that parental support while you're still growing up and not old enough quite yet to be able to, if you do advocate for yourself, they may not listen to it because you're a kid, whether that's right or wrong. That's just how that goes. So important for that piece of it, but also, what we do to ourselves within this is what we assume or think or see. And instead of okay, where's that coming from? Is that truth, or is that just something, because we treat our thoughts as truth and we don't stop to consider, maybe that's just a thought. Am I
making that up, or is that reality?
Right. Is that a narrative that's not serving me that I've adopted as truth, or is that, and then oh, okay. And then realizing that it's my life. I get to decide how that goes. I get to make the rules for my life. And if it's honoring to me and healthiest for me and best for me, then that is what it'll be. And people will do what they do. But I get to, make those choices. But yeah, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. So it's like, if you're feeling that pressure, stop and consider, where is that coming from? And is it based in a truth? And if it's coming from someone else, it's not their job to decide, nor their right to get to dictate that. But it's also your responsibility to communicate what yours are. Because if you don't communicate your expectations or live them out clearly, people will impose them upon you. I mean, that's just the way we work as humans. And so, but thank you for bringing all that up. I think that's so important to remember in that place. All right. Accepting the layered aspects of ourselves. These are all the pieces and portions of our lives that we love, that we don't love, that we have, that we have to kind of come to terms with. And so many times there's parts that we push aside or we have angst about. I would imagine with the health struggles you've had and different things that have happened along the way, they would be real easy for you to be like, ugh. But in order, I think, to live in peace and contentment, we have to come to I don't have to love it, but I can acknowledge it. I can give it the space it needs to breathe and be. I can get curious rather than judgmental about it. And I can see how it's factored into my life in a way where I can not let it, be a deterrent or let it be something that rules the day on how I feel about myself.
Right. I think, gosh, the layers of ourselves, I think we often kind of push parts of ourselves down and ignore it or pretend it doesn't exist. I was very good at that when I was little. I'm an introvert. I never enjoyed talking about my feelings. I would just push them down. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Or even things like I mentioned, how tall I am. I have curly hair. My mom didn't know what to do with it. And, there are just things in our life and especially for women, we have to come to terms with who we are now, like what our body looks like, how we feel. There's other parts of my journey that I share in podcasting about health issues where I've lost parts of me and I didn't realize I was grieving who I was then and who I am now.
Yeah.
And I think that I've had to experience it to get to that point, but no matter what you try and avoid, it's going to show up for you at some point.
Yeah.
But I think the first step with women, no matter what you want to do, is you have to come to terms with being happy with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You can't let the little things get to you. And I've battled with weight issues my whole life. And in the last 3 years, I've lost 50 pounds for different reasons. And I know I feel better and healthier when I weigh less. But that doesn't mean that when I'm in that, it's easy for me to make a decision to change it. Life happens. Life is busy. We don't have time to eat right or exercise or all the things. But I also know that I have to prioritize certain things for me to be better overall.
Sure.
And I had to come to terms with, I'm never going to look like her. I'm never going to be a 2 or probably even a 6 or an 8. But I know I can be way less and be healthier and happier. And I can be happy now at this weight, and I can also be happy at other weights. And that's been a big process for me to come to terms with, because so much of our identity gets wrapped up in what we look like and how people see us, that we can't let other people's misconceptions, stereotypes get in our way of doing what we want to do. And podcasting has allowed me to open up in a lot of ways that I didn't realize I was closed off.
Yeah. Thank you so much for all that. It is so important that we stop and think about that. I've got several friends that I've had on here as guests, Rachel Lavin, Kim Mosman, Amy Donovan. They all speak to this body piece very specifically. In fact, Kim and Rachel have just launched their own podcast. They met on one of my panels. They've just launched their own on YouTube, literally dropped their first episode this week. And it's these conversations, loving ourselves where we are, getting rid of this comparison game, this ideal game of what we're supposed to look like. We're supposed to look like us. And we're supposed to meet us wherever we are and wherever we feel healthy. And so, but it's a lot of really mindfulness and awareness of continuing to address when those insecurities or things come up and being truthful about it. You also hit on another thing too. there's these emotions, especially like anger and grief. There's so many stereotypes and stigmas about women and those emotions and whether they're okay or not. And it's like, emotions are emotions. They're not good.
Right.
They're not bad. They're clues. We all have them. They're necessary. And when they come into play, they need to be tended to, whether that's anger or joy. So many of us, we're afraid to feel, oh, I shouldn't feel so joyful. So-and-so's having a hard time, or women, or women in this area of the world have no rights. And all those things are true. And also joy is part of what fills us and keeps us fueled, and then on the flip side, there is nothing wrong with anger. Anger is a great motivator. What there is wrong with anger is when we don't move through it and process it, and then it comes spewing out in some way. Or
we get stuck in it.
Yes, we get stuck and we can't move forward from it because of all the other emotions and things that need to be healed that are coming up within that.
Yep.
So,
and I really, grief has come up a lot in my podcasting, both about pets, because we talk about pets we lost and how that impacted us, but also in grief with women of not being able to have kids, having kids and them leaving the nest, changing career, divorces. I have several friends going through divorces. There's all these, and then so I mentioned my kidney disease. Well, less than 6 months after that moment, my dad passed away. So another big life change. And, my biggest cheerleader, even though my mom is great too, he was, it's different. We have different relationships with our parents.
Yeah.
But it was also like the end of something. And then you start thinking about your life and the end of my life. And what's it going to be like with just my mom? And what will she need me for? And, so much of that. And I think especially in our 40s and 50s, age-wise, typically we're also having to maybe care for parents or help them in different ways. And so it makes sense at midlife we question a lot of things. Yeah. But I think it's also a good time to reflect and realize what we haven't dealt with. And that was something I had to come to terms with. But, we grieve in a lot of different ways. We grieve the loss of relationships, of people passing away, of our pets passing. We grieve the loss of marriages and homes and jobs and careers. And what I have learned is you cannot compare grief. Because we do that so much in our society. Compare despair, compare they have it worse. Oh, I have it worse. No. We all are dealing with something. We can't compare. We have to deal with ours and support others to deal with theirs. But I see that so much that it's something I've become more aware of. And I've always been an empath. I've always kind of taken on other people's emotions. And I've had to learn to kind of push back. Like I can support you without taking on everything of what you're dealing with. And I think that is also hard as women, especially when it's our families, our parents, our kids, our friends. We want to do so much, but we can only do so much for other people. Yeah. And we also have to protect our own boundaries and emotions and listen when our body's kind of festering something, which is hard. But if you don't listen now, it's going to tell you louder down the line.
Yeah. Thank you so much for bringing up the different types of grief and that comparison thing, because, that it's only this, or it's no onlys, no shoulds, no nevers. Let's be respectful and honor that thing that's coming up. And if it's coming up in us, it means it's impacting us. And so let's meet it where it is with compassion and patience and love and curiosity instead of judgment and impatience, because there's no time meter on that,
I remember when my dad passed and I would be doing something and say to someone, oh, sorry, I haven't done that. Or no, I had to change this because I went through this. And I would say, my dad passed, and people would say, oh, how old was he? And I'd be like, he was 94. Oh, okay. Like it was okay because he was so old. And it's like, guys, no, you can't put that on me. Yes, he was 94. He had a long, great life. But I still only got him for 40 years because he was much older when I was born. Yeah. And so no matter who it is, how long we have him, it's never enough. It's never enough with our pets, with our people. And that is also something I've become very aware of, is how I react to people, because that like actually made me feel bad when my doctor said, oh, he had a long life. Like, it's fine. No, I still had to go through it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It doesn't minimize my grief. I still miss him greatly. He's still not here with me anymore. Yeah. I think that's so important. I was just having this conversation with a friend at a meeting I was at. She was talking about the grief that she was going through. I literally had a guest that I just recorded with last week. And because of her own grief journey, she now kind of specializes in helping people understand there's no one way to do this. Don't let other people dictate how you do this. You get to decide that. And but also within that, she talked a lot about people think they're helping by either minimizing something. Oh, well, God, at least he was 94. Or they come in and they're like, start cleaning up your space when that was the last cup they drank out of, or the last clothes they wore, or the last time they sat in that spot. And it still feels like them, smells like them. So, so being very mindful when you're showing up for people, or they express to you they've been grieving, or they know that and they're showing up, that that you just don't say too much. I mean, just be thoughtful and kind and empathetic. And if you want to help, ask, is there a way I can support you in this that feels well for you? So thank you so much for addressing all that.
Yeah, I think it's really important. I've struggled with that with my mom, just because there were things I'm like, Mom, why do you still have this? It's sitting there. You're having to pay for it to sit there. And it's like, I get to the point where it's time to and she just can't let go of certain things. She still lives in my childhood home with all of our things. She has gotten rid of a lot of my dad's clothes and has donated to good places. But I also, in my mind, it's like, yeah, it's fine now. But her, it's different. That's her whole life. They were married almost 50 years. And they had a great marriage. They loved each other very deeply. And so I've had to learn, like, okay, there's certain things I can push on, and there's certain things that I can't control it. That's her journey. And even if it drives me crazy, I can't tell her when it's right to do certain things. Yeah.
So good. Thank you so much for all of that. Okay. In living out F.E.E.L, finding out empowerment, embracing layers, the acronym and what we live by here. Talk to me about how that's impacted your journey and relationship with yourself, as well as your relationship with other people.
Yeah. I think one thing I've definitely learned is I used to kind of have different versions of myself. There was me as a family, me as a career person, me as a friend. And I kind of kept them siloed. And so, in some ways, our society is geared to do that. You're this way here, you're that way there. I actually love the TV show Severance, because it really gets at that. How we're like, this version here.
Boy, yeah. And shows how it's really not possible.
Right. You really cannot separate yourself like that. It just doesn't work. Yeah. So a lot of it has been me letting go, of the Dr. Julie, who was the teacher and the administrator and that. But that doesn't mean I can't say, yeah, I'm Dr. Julie. Like, I didn't say that in the first couple of years I podcasted, because I thought, well, yeah, but I'm not a doctor of pet podcasts, so why would I say that? Well, obviously I still use the same skills, but, I realized I was even diminishing myself. And it's like, why am I doing that? Like, I worked hard for all of those things, but I think sometimes we diminish ourselves for the people we're around. Like, we don't want them to feel bad. So I'm not, like, you're going through a divorce, I'm not going to talk about my marriage, right? But that's not fair to them or ourselves. Yeah. So I do think recognizing the layers of myself that maybe I wasn't as aware of, or I wasn't as open with. And people like, oh, I didn't know that about you. I'm like, yeah, because I never talked about it. Like, I have to realize that I'm a part of it too. And if I never said this about myself, then, but I have had friends say to me over the last couple of years as I've been podcasting, like, wow, you're really showing up as your authentic self, or you're really showing all of yourself. And I'm like, thank you, because you never know how you're coming off. Yeah. But I also feel like, should I be putting on the bedazzled headband and have all my photos? Like, that's who I am. So it's giving myself permission to do it, but also being okay with it. And if someone doesn't like it, that's their problem, not mine.
Yeah, exactly that. Like, we're not going to be for everybody. That doesn't mean we're doing anything wrong. We're just not going to be for everybody. So if we're honoring ourselves and showing up honestly and authentically in that space, then that is what we are to do in order to honor ourselves. Thank you so much. So good. All right. We are down to the rapid fire. Name 5 activities that nourish you.
Whoa. Okay. Sleep. Time with friends, reconnecting, creating things. I love to create bracelets. It's kind of my anti-anxiety reliever.
Yeah.
Podcasting for sure. And also travel. That's kind of something that's come back up in my life. I hadn't really done it for years for finances, but also COVID, and realizing, oh yeah, I like this and I need to make room for it, both financially and schedule wise. So getting back into that one.
Oh, so good. All right. And 5 words on how you want to feel the next 6 months.
Ooh. Proud. Energetic. That's a hard one for me. Growing and growth. Inspiring, to be inspiring, but also to continue to be inspired by others.
Oh, I like that. That's really good. All right. Tell people all the places and ways they can find you, follow you, listen to you. This will also be on our website, on our resources page at embracinglayers.com, but take a minute to share that with our listeners.
Yeah, you can find me in all the places, mostly. My website is juliemartypearson.com. You can find both my podcasts there. You can find all of my workshops and free events, my networking, the Women's Podcaster Party, as well as my membership, which is Podcast Your Story Community. And that's really a space for women who are podcasters, want to be podcasters, want to be guests, want to grow, to just come and learn from each other and have more one-on-one that's, in addition to the networking that I offer.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Any last thoughts you'd like to leave with our listeners today?
Yeah, one thing I like to leave with is no matter what it is you've been thinking about, whether it's podcasting or speaking or writing a book or starting a business, is that I say to you to start, because you don't know until you start. And that is what I did with podcasting. My first few episodes were unedited Zoom recordings that I just put up and said, let's see what happens. I've learned so much through the process of doing that I know it's easy to get held up in the starting, but you don't really know if it's for you until you get out there.
Yeah. Oh, good. So good. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for your time today. I appreciate this conversation. I appreciate you and how you show up in the world for yourself, for women. It's so important to have women like you in the world doing this important work of not only sharing your own voice, but also magnifying other voices and inviting and creating these safe spaces for us to come together. So thank you so much for that. Go check out, listeners, all that Julie offers. Listen to our podcast. Follow her on her socials. So much good stuff there. And remember what she said. If there's that thing you've been waiting on, don't wait. Give it a try. You never know. You're definitely not going to know if you don't try. And you don't want to get, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years down the road like, oh, I wish I would have done that. Do the thing. Do the thing. And whatever comes of it will come of it. But yeah, do the thing. So thanks so much for that and all your insights and wisdom today, your authenticity and sharing your story. I appreciate that so much.
Thank you, Melissa. I really appreciate you having me and what you do with this podcast.
Thank you so much. All right, listeners, take good care of yourselves, and we'll see you next time here on the F.E.E.L Podcast. Hello, and thank you so much for being with us today on this episode of the F.E.E.L Podcast. If you would like more information on how you can apply these talking points that I share with our guests in each episode to your own life, really utilize this F.E.E.L framework, go to embracinglayers.com, fill out our contact form, and let's set up a free 30-minute consultation to talk about how you can start living your most authentic, organic, healthy, F.E.E.L fueled life. Thanks again for being with us today. We'll be back to you soon with another episode here on the F.E.E.L Podcast.